Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Coach LaTonya. I am a mindset and inner healing coach. I help teach, transform, and empower women to become the best version of themselves. Before we get started, I ask that you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification button and follow me on the journey to becoming healed, empowered, and restored. Listen, if you find value in anything that I say, I ask that you hit that like button. It gives my channel an opportunity to grow. So before we get started this morning, I apologize that my attention will not be strictly on this camera. I am attempting to run two platforms, but today we will be talking about how to heal emotionally. How to heal emotionally. I have my notes and I am ready to get started. I ask that you all take notes. I ask that you all, if you have any questions, my email will be in the description box below. If you all have any coaching needs, my website will also be in the description box. Okay, before we get started, this is how to heal emotionally part 1. And before we get started, I would like to say this: emotional healing is possible. I know that that is something that a lot of people struggle with, and I know that is something that is hard to overcome, but emotionally healing is possible. But in order to heal emotionally, one must be willing to do and put in the work. And the reason why emotionally healing is hard or is a struggle for some is because a lot of individuals do not like to relive painful experiences. So before we get started, I'm going to talk about who needs to heal emotionally. Who needs to heal emotionally? Okay, number 1, the first person that needs to heal emotionally is anyone who has suffered a broken relationship, including those who have been divorced. Okay, number 2, the second person that needs to heal emotionally is anyone who has been in a toxic relationship or a toxic marriage. Number 3, the third person that needs to heal emotionally is anyone who has been or is being abused. Okay? Number 4, anyone who has suffered traumatic experiences or losses in life. So again, who needs to heal emotionally? Number 1, anyone who has suffered a broken relationship, including those who have been divorced. Okay? Number 2, anyone who is in a toxic relationship, has experienced a toxic relationship or marriage. Number 3, anyone who has been abused or is being abused, whether that is physically, emotionally, verbally, mentally, psychologically, any of those are abuse. Sometimes we only look at abuse as physical abuse, but verbal abuse is just as traumatic as physical abuse, okay? And number 4, anyone who has suffered traumatic life experiences or losses in life. Excuse me. Okay, so for the next part, we will be talking about what does it mean to heal emotionally? Because I know a lot of people struggle with what it truly means to heal emotionally. In order for one to heal emotionally, just like any other thing, we have to acknowledge that something has occurred. We have to acknowledge the fact that we're broken. We have to acknowledge the fact that we've been hurt. So acknowledge is the first step, because if you go and try to heal without acknowledging that something is wrong, you will never get to the point to say, there's actually something wrong with me. And there are people who truly believe that there is nothing wrong with them. Number 2, allow. In order to heal emotionally, one must allow. And when I say allow, that means you have to allow the process to take place. You have to allow the process to take place, because there are some people who will go to counseling, they will go to therapy, they will come into coaching, and they will not allow the process to do what it needs to do. Okay? Number 3, accept. Accept that, and that goes with acknowledge. Accept that something is wrong and accept the process. I'm going to say that again. Accept that something is wrong and accept the process. Okay? Number 4, integrate and process painful life experiences and emotions. And that is where the struggle is. Many people do not like to rehash emotions. A lot of people do not like to hash broken life experiences. But in order for you to heal, you have to learn, number 1, to process your emotions. Number 2, you have to learn to sit with your emotions. And number 3, you have to be able to identify why those emotions are occurring. Okay? Signs that you are carrying emotional pain. Signs that you are carrying emotional pain. Number 1, anger and mood swings. If you experience lots of anger, lots of mood swings, if something can alter your mood, if something can make you angry, whether it's you hearing something, you see something, if something can trigger your anger, if something can trigger your mood, you are indeed carrying emotional pain. Number 2, you hold grudges. And the thing with holding grudges is that a lot of people struggle with healing because they feel, well, if I hold this grudge, that is hurting the other person, when in actuality, that is actually hurting you. When you hold that grudge, you are giving that individual power over your life. When you are holding a grudge against someone, you are allowing that person to have power over your life. Okay? C. Okay? And this goes hand in hand with number 2 or B. Difficulty forgiving others. Difficulty forgiving others. And let me say this before I move to the next one. In order for you to heal, forgiveness is a must. I'll say that again. In order for you to heal, forgiving what that individual did to you is a must. Now, let me say this. I'm not asking you to forget your experience. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to forgive the individual that caused you pain, hurt, brokenness, whatever the case may be. In order for you to heal, you have to forgive. And forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you, because forgiveness sets you free. Also, let me say this. You can forgive someone and never speak to them again. You can forgive someone and never allow them back in your life. Forgiveness is just that, forgiveness. It does not mean reconnection. It does not mean to open up your life and allow them to come back in. You can forgive someone and you never have to speak to that individual or see that individual ever again. So I wanted to clear that up about forgiveness, because a lot of people struggle with forgiveness because they think that, oh, I'm forgiving this person as if this person has never done anything to me. Absolutely not. That is not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is simply not allowing what happened to you to control you. Okay? That's all forgiveness is. Okay? So, next one. Insecurities or poor self-esteem. I'll say that again. If you are carrying any type of insecurities, if you're carrying, or if you struggle with low or poor self-esteem, you are in need of emotional healing. Okay? And the last one, lack of sleep or struggle with sleep. There's a lot of people who struggle from lack of sleep, or they struggle with insomnia because they are carrying so much emotional baggage that they cannot get a good night's rest. And I'm a witness. I've been there. I've struggled with my sleep. I've had poor sleep habits. I used to sleep maybe an hour or so, and then I'm up because my brain would not turn off. Okay? So if you struggle with any of those things that I just mentioned, you are carrying some type of emotional pain. Okay, next we're going to talk about the 5 stages of the healing process. Okay, so the first stage of the healing process is the denial stage. We've all been there, the denial stage. And this stage is when the individual consciously or unconsciously refuses to acknowledge or accept what is. And that is where you're denying that you're not seeing what you're seeing, that the person who has hurt you has not done what they've done, or they have not said what they said. You are denying that anything has actually happened. And that's the stage of denial. You are denying anything or everything that has happened. Okay? That's the denial stage. The next stage is the anger stage. And we've all been there as well, the anger stage. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, is in the anger stage. The anger stage is where anger can and will manifest in different ways. It can be directed towards other people, or it can be directed back at you. And when you are angry, and this is where you have to sit down, like I said before, you have to sit down and you have to process and sit with your emotions. Ask yourself, why am I angry? Why am I angry? Who, what, when, why? Those are the things you need to ask yourself when emotions come upon you, either for no reason or even a reason. Why do I feel this way? Who is making me feel this way? That is how you process your emotions. Sit down, think about it, and ask yourself, who, what, when, why? And process those emotions, okay? Now, let me say this about your anger. It's good that you acknowledge your anger, but it's even better when you let it go. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my stage of anger. That was one of the worst places that I could have ever been in, and I'm going to tell you why. Not only did it affect me, but it also affected my daughter. It also affected my family members. It also affected my friends. It affected everybody that I came in contact with, especially after arguing with my ex, seeing my ex, seeing something on social media concerning my ex. I literally was enraged. My anger had gotten so out of control that I was literally enraged. And anybody who came in my path, whether it was during the time that I was angry or I was feeling some type of way, they got it. And when I say they got it, they got it. Because everything that was intended for him fell on them. Especially my daughter. Why? Because she was in the house with me and she was the closest thing to me. So when we would argue and he would walk out, she was the only thing left. Now, was it intentional? Absolutely not. But it was because I was in pain. And when you're in pain, you will lash out on who's available. Anything that someone did that I didn't like, I lashed out. Until one of my friends actually pulled me to the side and asked me what was going on. Because she knew that the way that I was operating in anger, that was not me. But because I was so hurt and I was so inundated with pain, I had to release it, because there were times when I literally felt as though my head and my chest was going to explode. I had let my anger get so out of control. And that is one of the reasons why it is important that you process your emotions. Okay? The next stage, the bargaining stage. Okay? This is the stage where we seek compromise. And when we seek compromise, it could either be from the individual that hurt us, or it's usually from God. God, if you heal me, or if you get me out of this situation, I'll do this or I'll do that. Or if it's with your ex or the person that has hurt you, if you just give me another chance, I'll become a better person, or I'll do this and I'll do that. I promise this and I promise that. We're bargaining in order to keep whatever it is that we had, or we bargain with God to get us out of it because we don't like the way that we're feeling. Okay. The bargaining stage is where fear sits in. And the fear is what causes us to bargain, because nobody likes to be afraid. Nobody likes to be in a state to where we don't know what's going to happen next, or we are afraid of what is going to happen next. Okay? And when fear gets the best of us, we begin to sabotage the process, our progress, and then forfeit the progress. And I'll say that again. When fear sets in, we begin to sabotage the progress and we forfeit the process. This is where a lot of people shut down on the healing process, because they are afraid. They are afraid of the unknown. So guess what? Self-sabotage is real. It's real. And I have a teaching coming up on that as well. Self-sabotage is real, because when you self-sabotage, you continuously put yourself in positions that's going to hurt you. And a lot of people do that by either quitting the healing process and going back to what hurt them, or they quit the healing process and they sit in their pain and they become anger and they become bitter. Okay? So the bargaining stage is where fear sets in, and when fear gets the best of us, it causes us to sabotage our progress, and it causes us to forfeit the process. Okay? The next stage is the depression stage. And at some point in our lives, I think we've all hit a stage of depression. Okay? This stage can be complicated and messy, because when you're depressed, you're all over the place. Some days you feel as you're doing better, and some days it feels like as if you've gone back to ground zero. Okay? So during this stage, a lot of people choose to isolate and withdraw. I can witness that I've done that, but what I will say is I don't think that that is the best thing to do, and here's why. When you isolate and when you withdraw, you're all alone. And when you are depressed, your mind is running a mile a minute. And that is where things begin to come up. Negative thoughts begin to run through your head, and you're all alone. And there is no one there to pick you up. There is no one there to speak into your life. There is no one to help you combat those negative thoughts. And that's how, when people isolate and withdraw, that is how they get into those deep, dark places. So I ask that if you are one who likes to withdraw and isolate, I ask that if you do that, you have a partner of accountability. And the reason I say that is because if you choose to isolate and withdraw, and your accountability partner doesn't hear from you within a day or so, it will be their job to either check on you by phone or check on you in person. And that is for that is for the best. That is for the best interest of yourself, and that it will be for the best interest of your family. Okay. A lot of people either withdraw or isolate, and then there are some people who may turn to drugs and alcohol. Why? Because people cope with depression in many different ways. When you get to the depression stage, at this point, you have gotten a glimpse of what your reality is about to look like. And we all know what it looks like when we get a glimpse of the sun, or whether we get a glimpse of the moon. You can see just a tiny bit of what is about to become. Okay, and the final stage is the acceptance stage. The acceptance stage is the stage where you have accepted the reality of your situation. The depression stage, we talked about the glimpse of the moon. We talked about the glimpse of the sun. The acceptance stage, you see the whole thing. You see the entire moon, or you see the entire sun. This is what my life is going to look like. Okay, so with this stage, this is where you have accepted the reality of your situation, but acceptance is not necessarily the happy stage. Okay, just because you've accepted your situation does not mean that you're happy about what it is that you have to accept. Okay, it just means that you have accepted what has happened, and that you have come to grips that this is my life. Now, how do you get to the happy stage? We're going to talk about that. Okay? How do you get to the happy stage? You get to the happy stage by healing. You get to the happy stage by healing and accepting who you are. Sometimes we fail because we try to become what people want us to be instead of being who we want to be. How do you get to the healing process? How do you get to the healing? The happy stage in life? Happiness is an inside job. And when we talk about healing and tips on how to heal, we'll talk about how to get into that happy phase of life. But before we go any further, let's talk about the facts of emotional healing, okay? Number one, it looks different for everybody. The way that I heal emotionally will not be the way that you heal emotionally. Why? Because we're two totally different people. What makes me happy or what makes you happy may be totally different. But at the end of the day, our happiness depends on our healing, okay? Number two, emotional healing, just like any other healing, takes time, okay? Let me say that again. Emotional healing, just like any other healing, takes time. Let me say this. When you have surgery, it is very rare when the doctor releases you without any restrictions. Okay? If you have surgery, the doctor tells you to take your time, and he gives you things that you can do, and he gives you things that you cannot do. Okay? Depending on what surgery you have, your healing process takes a little longer. Okay? If you just had outpatient surgery where you go in, they do what they need to do, and they send you home, it doesn't take that long to heal. So maybe in a week or two, you can get up and your life will be full blown back to normal. But there are other surgeries that you take that takes weeks. Sometimes it takes months, and sometimes it takes years. Yes, years, okay? And what happens when you've been hurt and you've been hurt for 10 years? You will not bounce back as fast as somebody who was only hurt 6 months to a year. You have a lot more to process. You have a whole lot more to process. So don't think anybody who has had any type of trauma, anybody who has had any type of abuse, do not think that, oh, I can do the steps of healing and I can be back to normal in a week to a month, and then I can go back there and jump on the dating scene again. You're fooling yourself. Because what you've done is you've buried those emotions, and then you're going to go back out there and somebody is going to touch that wound and you're going to manifest all over again. Why? Because you were not healed. You suppressed. Okay? So healing takes time. Okay? Number 3, you will not be the same person you were before whatever happened that you are healing from. Some people want to go back to who they were. Let me say this, change is never bad. When you change for the better, it is never a bad thing. It's okay that you won't be the person that you used to be, because you're going to become somebody new. You're going to become better. It's okay that you never become the person that you were. If you have a flower and you see that some leaves on your plant is dying, they tell you, for those of you who tend to plants, I'm not that person, but my mother was. And whenever she would see that a leaf was turning yellow or that it had a dead piece on it, she would go and pluck that leaf off. And she would pluck that off because she didn't want it to affect the other leaves that was on that plant. Now, that plant changed. And that plant will never be the same again. Why? Because now it's missing a piece. But somewhere down the line, something new is going to begin to bloom. And that is what happens when you heal. Something new begins to bloom. Something that was never in the old you. And that is okay, because what I used to be, I'm no longer anymore. Something new has come, and you know what? I really like the new me. That's what happens when you heal, and the old things that you used to tolerate, the old things that you used to deal with falls off, and you began to pick up better habits. You began to pick up newer friends. You began to pick up friends who encourage you, friends who will hold you accountable for the decisions and the choices that you make, instead of those who just go along to get along. So change is not always bad. Sometimes you can change for the better, and that's okay. It's okay. During the healing process, you will begin to learn that a lot of things that you tolerated were not for you, but were for someone else. You will begin to learn that a lot of things that you put up with were not for you, but they were for someone else. And because they made that individual happy, you put up with it. but it didn't necessarily make you happy. But because you didn't want to lose what was attached to you, I'll put up with it for the sake of making them happy. Okay? So change is not always a bad thing. Excuse me. Okay. That is all that I have for this video on today. Next week, we will be talking about emotional healing and how it affects the body. And that'll be part 2, okay? So next week, we will be speaking about emotional healing and the body. I thank you all for watching. I thank you all for subscribing and being a part of the Becoming Tribe. Y'all, listen, if y'all stick around, I promise you, you will become better than before. Like I said before, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section below. Or if you want to ask a private question, my email will be in the description box below. If you are in need of healing, if you have any questions or answers, I ask that you tap that my website link that will be below. I do have a Q&A session available for 30 minutes. It's not that expensive. So if you all have personal questions that you want to ask pertaining to a specific situation that you all are dealing with, again, I ask that you click my website below and I will be happy to help you all on your journey to healing. Once again, I wish you all love and light on your journey to becoming healed, empowered, and restored. My name is Coach Latonya, and I look forward to speaking with you all soon. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.